Imagine discovering something truly terrifying. That morality may not even be real. That there's no such thing as moral particles, no cosmic law, that there's no fundamental justice inside this world. Just humans telling a story. It sounds crazy, but many philosophers think this is honestly true. I, for one, second this notion that morality is fictional. But let's go more into that idea. Think about the physical world. We can measure gravity, we can detect radiation, we can observe atoms and particles. But where exactly would we find wrongness? If we examined every atom involved in a theft, we would find molecules, neurons, and physical movement. But we would not find a measurable property called moral wrongness. So this raises the question: are moral facts real? Or are we assuming that they exist? This goes into moral theory. This problem was led by the philosopher J.L. Mackie to propose something incredibly radical. He developed what is called moral error theory. This idea is simple but unsettling. When we say stealing is wrong, we are speaking as if moral facts exist. But according to error theory, those facts don't exist at all. In other words, our moral language might just be built on a mistake, on an error. If that is true, which if we go into more error theory, I think suggests is true if you read his book and if you want to look more into it, then it suggests that morality might be not be even a feature of reality. It might be something humans invented. And that raises a frightening possibility. If morality isn't real, does that mean nothing actually matters? Most people, whenever you say that to them, think that it's leading into moral nihilism. And we always have this like such a bad view of moral nihilism. But let me go into what I'm trying to say here. Maybe it doesn't lead to moral nihilism. And I think that's just how things are. We don't need to become explicitly hopeless whenever there's no hope. I want to go into an idea: moral fictionalism. Another philosopher, Richard Joyce, proposed an interesting solution. The idea is surprisingly practical, even if morality isn't real. Because morality might just serve as a useful function. We think about fictional characters and we say things like Sherlock Holmes is a brilliant detective. But we know Sherlock Holmes doesn't exist. Still, the story works. We can talk about it, we can understand it, and then we can use it. Moral fictionalists think morality might work the same way. You might be wondering, why does this fiction work? Well, Why the fiction works is because humans are social creatures. For thousands of years, our survival depended on cooperation. Groups that developed strong rules against murder, theft, and betrayal, and even like other things, tended to do better. Moral systems helped people trust each other, coordinate behavior, and reduce conflict. In other words, morality does not exist because it's objectively true, but because it's extremely useful towards progressing and towards human flourishing. There is no objectively true morality, but that doesn't mean that you have to say nothing matters at all, or nothing is wrong and nothing is right. You do not need to lean into moral nihilism. Instead, you lean more into moral fictionalism. Stable moral systems create something important. They create conditions for human flourishing. When people believe moral rules matter, they keep promises, they cooperate, and they build institutions that help their lives and help them live better lives and even health and help them live more healthy lives as well. Society becomes more stable, life becomes more predictable, and people could pursue meaningful lives. It's more so that they can choose which lives they want to go for and actually go towards the character they want to develop. Now, I want you guys to think in a thought experiment. This thought experiment is a hypothetical, but I think it really centers in on what really matters in the world, or what really matters in morality. Imagine two worlds. The first world is real, morality is objectively real, but nobody follows it. The second world is real, morality is not real. Morality is just a shared fiction, but everybody behaves according to it. Which world would you choose? Most people would pick the second choice, of picking a world where, even though morality may be a fiction, people behave according to it. Because what matters is whether morality helps humans live together in a well sense and lets them flourish. It is not whether morality exists in some metaphysical sense. Let me restate that again. What matters is not whether morality exists in a metaphysical sense. What matters is whether humans live well together. What matters is whether this morality helps humans live well together. In fact, many things that structure even these shared fictions in this world work this way. Money is just paper or numbers. Yet entire economies function using this concept of money because we collectively treat it as if it has value. Nations exist because people agree they exist. Laws exist because societies believe in them and they enforce them. These systems are all shared fictions, but they shape the world in powerful ways. Morality might be the one most important shared frameworks of all. So the next time someone asks, is morality objectively real? The answer might just be surprisingly humble. Maybe it isn't. But that doesn't mean it's meaningless. Because morality might not come from the universe, but it comes from us. From the fact that humans are capable of building shared systems that help us cooperate and reduce suffering and live together. And if moral frameworks help billions of people build better lives, then whether morality is a metaphysical reality might not be the most important question. The real question might be this: what kind of moral story do we as human beings want to live by? I want to leave you guys with this. I am not saying morality does not matter, but I think the argument of if morality is objectively real, and this metaphysical, meta-ethics type of argument, is a great argument to have, and a great discussion to have, and a great thing to look into. It provides insight, just like whether the meaning of life is what the meaning of life is as well. Just like with the meaning of life, and just like with the meta-ethics of morality, I think, in all honesty, they are seen as way too big of topics that honestly don't matter as much as people would like to think. Practically, I would say the meaning of life does not really matter. What really matters is what you want to do with your life. Morality, and if it's true, if it's objectively real or not, does not matter. It matters what kind of moral story do we want to live by, and also, do we want to at least live by a moral story that helps in the flourishing of all people? These are the things that really come into play. I just want to say and enforce this idea that some of these questions that are being asked are vital or are necessary, but are they practical? I think trying to figure out the meaning of life is great, but is it practical? What's practical is what you should do with your life. Trying to figure out if morality is true or not is not really practical. What's practical is about building a moral character that you want to have. In all honesty, I'm not lowering it at any point. You could have any type of way and any type of belief that you may have, but you got to think about this in a practical sense. What should you do? And what can you do right now? I feel like with morality and meaning, we are all basing this off of assumptions. These cannot be always figured out as true and always figured out as wrong. So, the main question is this: what kind of moral story do you want to create? What kind of moral story do you want your character to have? Do you want to live by?